trauma puts us in situations where we have to make choices that we shouldn't have to make. And that can shut down that part of us. So in a lot of cases, it's about relearning and reteaching that part of our body that it's safe to make decisions from there.
Have you ever wondered why certain patterns keep showing up in your life no matter how much self-work you've done? Or why some decisions feel easy and aligned while others leave you second-guessing everything? Hi, my name is Terry. I'm the founder of Shine.Online, your ultimate health and wellness directory, where you can search for your particular wellness challenge and find all of the practitioners who specialize in addressing it. Today, we're exploring the fascinating world of human design, a system that's part ancient wisdom, cutting-edge insight, and entirely transformative. Whether you've heard of it or you've already pulled up your chart and gone down that rabbit hole, you're in for something truly eye-opening. Our guest today is Ross Tayler, a relationship guide, coach, and human design reader who's helped hundreds of clients find clarity, peace, and deeper self-trust by understanding how they're actually wired. Welcome, Ross.
Thanks, Terry. So great to be here.
Yes, I'm really excited. Now, I hadn't really heard about human design until I did an interview with Nicole Diavilla, and she's a business coach, and she was telling me how human design really transformed everything for herself and her business, understanding how to have a better relationship with her business. And that really intrigued me. And the timing was just amazing that you showed up in my life and offered me a human design reading. And it has really changed the way I look at running my business, but also how I make decisions and how I function in life and how I interact with people. It's really been eye-opening for me. For those who are new to the concept of human design, can you explain a little bit about what it is and how it differs from astrology or Myers-Briggs or those types of personality tests?
Yes, absolutely. So the first thing is that you mentioned Myers-Briggs, and human design is often referred to as Myers-Briggs on steroids because of all the information that it's able to give you. And what I love about human design is that it's based on your birth information. So there's not a lot of like questions that you're needing to answer. It's really based on, when you were born and the influences that were occurring when you were born. There's 4 ancient aspects that are weaved into human design that have been synthesized and brought into the modern, age so that we can interpret them and work with them in a good way. So there's astrology, the I Ching, Eastern chakra system, and then also the Kabbalah and the tree of life. And so basically your birth information creates what I would refer to as like a schematic of who you are. It's a very mechanical system. And when we understand the mechanics of how we were designed, we can respond to that and live our mechanics rather than not living our mechanics. That's kind of the basic interaction.
Wow. Now, what happens if you don't know your exact time? How sensitive is your chart to time?
Great question. I believe that most of us benefit from the top level of information, which is type, strategy, and authority. And those 3 things are the foundational aspects of human design. For most people, that doesn't change throughout the course of a day, but it's very sensitive. So there's aspects of your chart that can change by the minute. And then there's the main parts of your chart will stay the same over the course of a day. So it varies in regards to the level of information that you want from human design.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
did you personally discover human design and what drew you to it?
that's a great question. Human design was introduced to me by a coworker probably 7 or 8 years ago. I looked at the chart and I thought it was fascinating, but I just couldn't get my head around the way it was presented and just pushed it to the side. But it would keep coming back. And then it was 2021, it really came to me full force. And I was like, okay, I need to do some training and dive into this. And I really want to use it as a tool to guide people in my one-on-one coaching.
So, can you explain just the general types and how that influences our daily experience?
Sure. So there's 5 types in human design. So when you run your birth time and get your birth chart, you will see an energy type that is specific to you. And the first ones are energy types. So there's generators and manifesting generators. Generator types have lots of energy to, they're the builders of our society. They're the ones who make the things that we use available to us, whether it's software programs, a building, the roads that we drive on. They have the energy, the creative life force to make those things happen and bring them into reality. And they're here to be lit up. They're here to love what they're doing. They make up 70% of the population. The next type from there is projectors. Projectors are sometimes referred to as non-energy types. They don't have the sacral energy that generators do. They're here to be the guides. They're meant to use their energy very efficiently, and they often can very clearly see things, where things need to go, the direction that things need to go. The 70% of us that are generators benefit from the guidance that projectors give us. Projectors are here to be the new leaders, the new form of leadership as we evolve through this ascension process. Then there's manifestors, which are the older paradigm of leadership. Manifestors are here to share their vision. They initiate others to make life happen and to get that work done. I should just back up. Projectors are about 20% of the population. Manifestors are 9% of the population. And reflectors represent about 1% of the population. They're the most unique design. Reflectors are here to sample their environment and notice the health of that environment. It's very helpful to have a reflector in a community because reflectors will show us the health of that community. And it's not easy being a reflector because they feel the dissonance that is going on in the communities, but also in the world. And they're here to reflect that back to us as truth. And so it's not an easy role to have.
I've heard some people say, oh, I'm this type and I'm rare, so I'm special. Is there really a sense of hierarchy in terms of value based on these results?
I love where you're pointing because there can be a tendency to look at it in that way. I prefer to look at it like we're all unique. There's 5 types, but there's about 2 billion possibilities of what a chart can look like. So
Whoa.
even though you and I are both generator types and we have that shared sacral center, we're completely different. We're meant to be unique. And human design highlights that uniqueness. And so if you feel like you don't have something, that's your journey on a soul level to have here. And so it's kind of a beautiful thing because the thing that human design guides us to the most is the ability to be ourselves, to line up with who we were designed to be. And if you can give yourself permission to be yourself, that's the biggest gift you can give yourself and everyone around you. So it's not about good or bad. It's really about aligning with your unique, the map of who you are.
Hmm. One thing that was really transformative when I had my
Mm.
session with you is that I had built my life around my intellect. When I was 11, I felt the need to know what I was going to do with the rest of my life. By the time I was 14, I knew that I wanted to help people feel happy and empowered in a workplace. And I thought, okay, the best way to do that is a bachelor's in psychology, an MBA with a PhD in organizational psychology. And that's what I ended up doing. I lived my career with my intellect and I distinguished myself with that. But what changed my life was you telling me, no, 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 no. Your sacral authority, your decisions, your gut feelings, that's your driving force. So when you say it's important to be ourselves, society may have molded us in a certain direction, and we may not always be in tune with who we're meant to be. And I've spent the last few weeks just really exploring that underdeveloped side of me through the human design reading you gave me. Is that common?
It's absolutely common. And I see it as the most beautiful part of human design because it reveals these things to people. And it's the most confronting piece of human design because it's asking you to look in the mirror of what isn't mine? What are the ways of being that I accumulated over the course of my life that were out of alignment with who I actually am? And the pain and the sorrow and all the things that come along with that. But to look at that and go, oh, wow, like in what you just shared, like my intellect isn't my main way of making decisions and responding to the world. And so there's about 7 different ways that people make decisions from the body. And that's a big shift to live from our body instead of our mind.
Mm, I love that. The other thing that was eye-opening, and I'm still wrapping my head around, is these open and closed centers. And I always felt drained going out in public. And when you explained to me that I have an open center that picks up other people's thoughts or
Mm-hmm.
energies, oh my God, that changed things for me. And it allowed me to not see myself as flawed or defective
Mm-hmm.
or weak, but
Right.
as this is the way I'm built. And I just need to honor that and protect that and learn to distinguish what emotions are mine and not mine.
And everybody's got their own story based on that, because what happens on one side of that is that we have defined centers, which is where our natural energy flows and comes from. And these open centers take us away from what we have as gifts and energy that we naturally work with. And the mind gets involved and says, why am I feeling this way? Just to explain the mechanics of an open center, you're receiving and amplifying. So the center that you were talking about is the solar plexus, which is where emotions work in the chart. Because your center is open, you're receiving other people's emotions and amplifying them or expressing them as well. So if you were with someone, as a kid that was angry and you didn't know what to do with those feelings that weren't yours, you might actually vocalize them and then get in trouble for being angry. It's like that wasn't even yours. When you get to have the story of that center explained, which is this is the mind taking you away from all of your gifts and these emotions aren't yours, then you can release that energy, which is a beautiful thing. So every center that is open in a chart has that kind of story. And once we know that, we can work with it and start to shift the experiences we're having in our everyday life.
That's amazing. And I can see a huge value in this helping with relationships. Does human design make recommendations in terms of ideal partners, or it's just here's how best to work with everyone?
Yeah, it's a great question. The theory of human design and the practicality of it is when I know that about you, if I know a specific aspect of your chart that is your mechanical truth, then I can let go of trying to change it. And
Mm,
I can come to a place of acceptance around it. And knowing that is, I think, the most important piece, and vice versa. When we know how each of us is designed, our decision making process is a really great example of that. Like in your case, you have truth in the moment. You can make a decision in the moment, whereas other types have no truth in the moment. And it takes time to make a decision. So the bigger the decision, the longer that other type has to wait. And so if you think about buying a house in a relationship, for you would have a sense very quickly, if you're connected to it, of I want to buy this house and it's the right house for us. Whereas your partner having a different type of authority might have to wait a few weeks to make that decision in a good way. So that's going to show up in relationships. Like, why can't you make a decision? What's wrong with you? Right. But
that
when you,
that's
yeah,
amazing because just knowing that, imagine how many fights and arguments and resentment can decrease if you know
sure.
that's how a person is wired, and
Mm-hmm.
you can respect it because that's the way
Sure.
they are. Instead of trying to train them out of that, you can
Sure.
just allow that and build that relationship.
So fundamentally, the thing that I focus on the most is I see human design first and foremost as a tool to help us make aligned decisions, to help us to not say yes to things that we actually were meant to say no to.
So for me, I tend to need to sleep on things, but my chart says I should know right away. So that's an indicator that maybe I've disconnected with that part of my decision making side. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's someone I know that said this very beautifully. She said, I have a lot of unexpressed no's in my sacral center.
Wow.
And that's the dilemma, right? Trauma puts us in situations where we have to make choices that we shouldn't have to make.
Mm.
And that can shut down that part of us. Like we can become desensitized. And so this is not about making decisions from the mind, it's about making decisions somewhere in the body. And our body can be where we store our trauma, which can override the wisdom of that center. So, in a lot of cases, it's about relearning and reteaching that part of our body that it's safe to make decisions from there.
Wow. So
Mhm.
it sounds like human design can help us navigate back to our core, our center.
Mhm. Right.
What other types of information can human design help with? What other topics?
Yeah. So it's great for relationships. It can reveal purpose. It can reveal like our core wounding. The energy centers are a massive area of learning that can help us because this is ultimately about when we're living out of alignment with our design, the mind is running the show. And we hear that in all the wisdom traditions, right? Come back to the body. And that's showing up now from a trauma perspective. I think polyvagal theory is the best example of that. When we talk about nervous system dysregulation or nervous system regulation, the body is taking us through this experience. When the body doesn't feel safe, we go into fight or flight. If we're continually in fight or flight, we go into freeze. If we're around people that make us feel safe and honored and acknowledged, we go to that safe and social place and we become regulated. Human design is really helpful in that aspect. Another aspect is that, and this is what I loved the most, Ra Aru, the founder, or the channeler, the receptor of human design, said that he hoped that human design would be a way for children to be seen in the correct design. In other words, if parents could use human design to learn about their children and then parent them according to their design, he said we would have one generation of children that could change the world, right? So, I mean, without going into the depth of it, there's some aspects in certain types that the way we parent in a generic way is really suppressing someone's gifts, like a child's gifts and a child's way of being in the world. And
Wow.
so if we could shift that, that would make a huge impact. But that's just another area of where you can look. And knowing your sister, your brother, your coworkers, like there's a place for using this in the workplace as well. Um, yeah, it can reveal so much about the dynamics that aren't intentional that play out in how we are in the world and the impacts that we have. But when we know that and can speak to it and can share it with our coworkers or our friends or our family, this is how I operate, then all of a sudden we can be seen for that and acknowledged, and there can be compassion given towards those things both ways.
It seems like, oh my gosh, you're blowing my mind. I had no idea that it could help with trauma, but I think what was most beautiful about what you said was
Mhm.
raising children aligned to their life, the way they're meant to be, instead of trying to raise them to be something else.
Exactly.
Now, a lot of people are questioning their life purpose, and I'm encountering in daily life people who are unhappy in their jobs.
Mhm.
And you're saying that by looking at your human design chart, you might get insights into clarifying your life purpose. Is that right?
Mhm. Yeah. And I just want to clarify that because purpose is something that we grow into, and
Mm.
purpose is also a byproduct of what we've had to experience. So, yes, it can shine the light on what are the aspects of being. And when we're being those things, it brings us a sense of purpose. Conditioning can really be suppressing the light of that purpose. It's kind of an interesting piece because we're here to experience what we have to experience. The conditioning that we've gone through has just as much made us who we are as it has been hard to go through. It's an interesting duality. And I love it when I hear this. Our purpose is the medicine we needed to transform the pain that we had to go through. And often that medicine is the gift that we bring to the world because we had to go through it and we had to
Oh,
endure it. The patterns of all of that are embedded in our human design.
yeah. Wow. Now, you were saying that human design can also help identify core wounding. What does that mean?
Yeah. So our core wounding is kind of like the story that we go through, and there's six core wounds that people have. So there's suppression, which is our light being pushed down. There's guilt, shame, rejection, and then there's feeling separate. I'm pretty sure I missed one, but
That's
I can't
okay.
figure.
It gives
Yeah,
us a good idea. So
yeah,
you're saying that based on the time we were born, we will be more vulnerable to this particular kind of wound than someone else born at a different time. So somebody may be more prone to experiencing shame as a core wound versus someone might be more prone to being triggered by guilt. Is that it?
yeah. And we might experience all of them in some way, but yes, we're predisposed to experience this as a theme.
I love that you have a background in addiction counseling
Mm.
and trauma and stress and nervous system regulation. How can human design help us heal from our trauma?
I should just share that primarily I use human design as a tool off to the side, right? So it's guiding me in helping someone. But essentially, it's like I'm slowly guiding people back to that design, that the map of who they are. It gives us a true north to work towards, if that makes sense. And I'm constantly reminding people of aspects of their design. And eventually it's starting to stick. But it's twofold. Trauma doesn't just go away. We need to start to experience safety in both our body and in our external environment. And when we see the world differently, trauma starts to dissipate. Human design can help to honor those parts of ourselves that perhaps were dishonored.
Mm, yeah.
And that starts to change, like just simply saying to someone like, yeah, that was really hard for you to have that experience, for your gift to be pushed aside, for your voice not to be heard, for your creativity to not be utilized. It's those things are really hard when we're trying to just be ourselves, because all you need to do is go out in the world and look at a newborn baby or a toddler and see how bright they are and how aligned they are with something bigger than we can understand.
Mm,
And we start to diminish that light. We start to move away from it. And honestly, the younger generation right now, they're more resolute about who they are in the world. And I think that's why we're seeing a bit of a shift. Like they're not falling into the conditioning that we've said yes to. They're saying no. And so I think that's part of what's going on right now. This new generation is actually trying to teach us and align with continuing to align with who they are. And human design brings people back to that
mm,
potentially. Yeah.
yeah. I like that. That is a good reflection. I hadn't thought of that, but it's true. Before it was just not okay to say no, and you're taught to
Mhm.
be a people pleaser, so you just suppress that side of you. And
Sure.
and I think human design can help teach us to get back to our core if that's been
Mhm.
lost through trauma or life experiences. Is there something that you wish people would know about human design?
Yeah, I guess it's twofold. One is that most of us, if not all of us in some way, are moving through the world way too fast. And that's a really core element of what human design teaches is to slow down and slowing down to almost a place of discomfort. And for the 70% that are generator types, that's really uncomfortable because they've got the energy to work to move through the world quickly. I always describe it as the Ferrari engine. You've got this Ferrari that you can weave through traffic and get to where you need to go. And if you're aware, you're noticing that you're ending up at the same red light with everybody else. And
Mm,
so if you can slow down, then you can actually see the metaphorical signs on the side of the road and start to follow them. And those signs are going to guide us to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And then all of a sudden life starts to flow and become a lot easier. So that's the other piece is like human design fundamentally, when you approach it, is an information system. It gives you all sorts of information about who you are. And what I do is I help people to take that information and start to live it. That's the big difference. So I want people to know that it's like it's not just looking up your chart on an app. It's it's learning to live it. And that's where you start to see the benefits that could be so helpful to helping them get back into alignment.
that brings up a really good point. Right now, we have access to free charts online.
Hmm.
We have access to AI and ChatGPT,
Hmm.
but it seems like that's just more theoretical knowledge. How does working with a human design reader help us more than working with online tools?
What I do best is seeing patterns that people are going through. I've always loved trying to understand the pattern that is playing out in someone's life. So for me, human design just helped me to see those patterns from people even more clearly. So the piece around working with the human design reader is that there's levels of interpretation of the information that you can't just get from the top line of looking at an app. Yeah, and there's lots of things out there that are useful. Don't get me wrong. Like there's
Mhm.
YouTube videos, it's all available. But is it relatable? And are you able to take that piece of information and see where it actually fits in your life? If you can't relate it into where it belongs in your life, then it's not really helpful. But if you can, then you can actually use it to start to change the trajectory of where you're going and to influence your healing journey.
So, do you combine human design with life coaching?
I do. Yeah. So fundamentally, my introduction of human design with people is really just teaching them about their type, strategy, and authority. And then the path is to I blend the human design and the life coaching. I call it relationship guidance from the inside out. It's about working with the individual, which is you, in your relationship with yourself and with others. That's the fundamental shift that needs to happen. And so
Mm,
looking at an app doesn't necessarily give you that experience.
yeah. I know that when we had our consultation on human design, I was triggered by a couple of things. That
Hmm.
just you telling me to slow down was so irritating.
Hmm.
I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm in a rush. I got to build a business.
Hmm.
I have to say that I really appreciated your patience with me. You did tell me that some of this information can be triggering. And
Hmm.
I was also triggered by this whole yes, no gut feeling. I
Hmm.
was like, that's not how I make decisions. But I do have enough experience to know that when something is triggered, there's something behind it.
I say that the most often. 1% of the population in human design makes decisions from the mind.
Mm,
1%. The other 99% make decisions from the body. And that is a fundamental shift. And I think that's really important to know because it it means that metaphorically we're trying to drive the car of our life when actually we're meant to be enjoying the ride in the back seat.
wow.
Hmm.
I like that. I think we spend so much of our time trying to drive the car and
Hmm.
forget to sit, breathe, relax, enjoy, because that's
Hmm.
really why we're here.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I want to thank you, Ross, for taking the time to speak with us today. And to you, our viewers, if you know your human design, I would be curious to see what it is. Please share in the comments what your
Hmm.
type is. And if you have any questions for Ross, we will have the link to his Shine webpage in the description so you can reach out directly to him and connect. Thank you again, Ross, for sharing your wisdom with us today. I really enjoyed it, and I hope we can keep the discussion going on human design because
Hmm.
I think we're just barely scratching the surface.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Terry. I feel it was a pleasure to be here with you and answer these questions and share it with your viewers.
Thank you. And to you, our viewers, we love you, we honor you, we cherish you, and we hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.
Great. Love
All
that.
right, good. Woo! All right, now I kind of dance a little bit, get the energy flowing. All right. We are good to go.